Welcome to I Am Goddess Collective podcast, a sacred space for empowerment through modern magic, spiritual activism, and reclaiming your power. I am your host, Nixie Marie, feng shui practitioner, earth activist, and mystic, here to support and inspire your journey in becoming the change you wish to see in this world. That change starts within. Join myself and fellow thought leaders, metaphysical experts, and luminaries each week as we explore practical and magical ways to living in your highest alignment. Your journey as an empowered goddess begins here. Let's dive in. Well, hello, lovely ladies, goddesses, and all those that identify as women. I am so excited to be here with you in the studio today, recording away, dancing, singing, and playing. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you find yourself listening to this episode. It is Nixie here, your lovely host. What are we going to get into today? So we've got a really fun episode for you. I got to sit down and have a conversation with the growth goddess, Jameelah Anderson, and she was very awesome. She's a fiery Virgo with lots of Leo tendencies, she says, and she really stands for women and all those who identify with. Actually, I really think we talked a lot about being a woman and freeing the feminine, but I also think that conversation of freeing the feminine has so much to do with the masculine as well. So that message just was coming up this morning as I was sitting in my meditation, just thinking about, how we all are coming together and how we all can, when we all step up and raise our own personal frequencies or heal ourselves or work through trauma or face our shadow, that we ultimately are doing the work for not only us, but for our partners, for our loved ones, for, the masculine. And when the masculine does this work too, it's so powerful. I think when we all come together and really bring that collective sense of unity and oneness in all of the work that we do. So we talk a lot about freeing the feminine and the importance of really knowing who you are and putting yourself first, and really self-love as a lifestyle. And I think that this actually is so fitting because self-love, the topic of self-love, has been really coming up for me as we're in December, and it is my birthday month, Sagittarius season. But it's actually a time where I have found I don't really like to do a lot in December, and I have to say it really is a lot harder for me to get going and wake up in the morning and get into my routines and rituals. This month so far has been filled with me sleeping in a little later, having a cup of tea or my cacao blend in the mornings in bed and not really wanting to get up. It's cold in the mornings. I've got my heater running. So it just feels like a really powerful time to reflect and think about self-love and how we need to take and tend to ourselves in these different cycles. And I came across this amazing article, which I shared inside I Am Goddess Collective's private Facebook group, which you can go on over to Facebook and tune in, listen, join the group. But this was a post about self-love and how it's a very unbeautiful thing. And I think that I really wanted to start this show reading from this because I think it just really hit me very hard, and realizing that, self-love is not what we think. It's not bubble baths. It's not, getting our nails done or spending the day at the spa. And I think that's really where self-love as a lifestyle comes in. So I'm going to read this. Let's see, who is it by? So this is by, I think it's a poem of some sort by Brianna Wiest. And you can find the full copy of this inside I Am Goddess Collective's private Facebook group. So head on over to Facebook, join that. And just sit and listen to this, like take a deep breath, listen to all of these amazingly powerful words. Self-love, self-care is often a very unbeautiful thing. It is making a spreadsheet of your debt and enforcing a morning routine and cooking yourself healthy meals and no longer just running from your problems and calling the distraction a solution. It is often doing the ugliest thing that you have to do, like sweat through another workout or tell a toxic friend you don't want to see them anymore, or get a second job so you can have a savings account, or figure out a way to accept yourself so that you are not constantly exhausted from trying to be everything all the time and then needing to take deliberate mandated breaks from living to do basic things like drop some oil in a bath and read Marie Claire and turn your phone off for the day. A world in which self-care has to be such a trendy topic is a world that is sick. Self-care should not be something we resort to because we are so absolutely exhausted that we need to reprieve from our own relentless internal pressure. True self-care is not salt baths and chocolate cake. It is making the choice to build a life so you don't need to regularly escape from it. And that often takes doing the thing you least want to do. It often means looking your failures and disappointments square in the eye and re-strategizing. It is not satiating in your immediate desires. It is letting go. It is choosing new. It is disappointing some people. It is making sacrifices for others. It is living a way that other people won't. So maybe you can live in a way that other people can't. It is letting yourself be normal, regular, unexceptional. It is sometimes having a dirty kitchen and deciding your ultimate goal in life isn't going to have to be having amazing abs and keeping up with your fake friends. It is deciding how much of your anxiety comes from not actualizing your latent potential and how much comes from the way you were being trained to think before you even knew what was coming. If you find yourself having to regularly indulge in consumer self-care, it's because you are disconnected from actual self-care, which has very little to do with treating yourself, and a whole lot to do with parenting yourself and making choices for your long-term wellness. It is no longer using your hectic and unreasonable life as a justification for self-sabotage in the form of liquor and procrastination. It is learning how to stop trying to fix yourself and start trying to take care of yourself. And maybe finding that taking care lovingly attends to a lot of the problems you were trying to fix in the first place. It means being the hero of your life, not the victim. It means rewiring what you have until your everyday life isn't something you need therapy to recover from. It is no longer choosing a life that looks good over a life that feels good. It is giving the hell up on some goals so that you can take care for yourself and others. It is about being honest, even if that means you aren't universally liked. It is meeting your own needs so you aren't anxious and dependent on other people. It is becoming the person you know you want and are meant to be. Someone who knows that salt baths and chocolate cake are ways to enjoy life, not escape from it. Again, that is by Brianna Wiest. Wow. Did you breathe all that in? So powerful. It really resonated with me in a lot of ways, again, because this month is really just taking that time to recalibrate and take a look at, when you think about this and maybe you want to rewind and listen to that again. When you think about and ask yourself these questions, am I living a life that I'm escaping from, or am I living a life that I'm fully enjoying? There's a difference there, because if you need to just turn off your phone, escape from reality, and while that's totally okay, Oftentimes, I think you need to check in though. If you're doing it often, how much are you doing it? Is what you're doing an escapism because you're not happy with what's going on in your life? And these are all questions that that is part of the self-care, to answer these questions and to look at them and not be afraid of them. If you're not happy in your life, if you're not happy in your career, your relationship, your friendships, you get to honor that and say it and vocalize it and be the change in your world and be the source to create something new. So food for thought on this episode as we get into all the self-care and self-love talk. And of course, we're going to pull a card real quick here before we get into the heat of the show. This card is from the Moon Deck, our latest sponsor. You guys can go grab a deck for 10% off at themoondeck.com/goddess. And today, of course, so this card is so fitting for what I just shared, is the boundaries card. Healthy boundaries keeps me centered and balanced. And there's a beautiful woman who's in a beautiful yoga mudra, like cross-legged, eyes closed, arms on her, open on her knees. And then she's got a sister behind her, and the sister behind her is holding her heart and her stomach. And then there's another set of arms that are raised up. It's like this beautiful sort of like Kali energy, but really an inner calmness, an inner peaceness that's coming from this picture of this woman, just knowing that her boundaries are being met, and she has the strong boundaries that keep her centered and balanced. Because I think oftentimes when we don't actually allow ourselves to have boundaries around others, around anything in life, really, it's so easy to get lost in pleasing others and catering to others. But when we don't have like a strong, healthy set of boundaries, it can be really taxing. So I think this is another great opportunity to, when you're thinking and processing everything that I just shared, that was really profound, to also ask yourself, does your life have healthy boundaries? Are you saying yes to things when you really want to say no? Are you letting people in when you don't really want to let them in? Ask yourself all these things and tune into your power and the source that you are and that which you create from, and make sure that your boundaries are strong, sister. Make sure they are strong, sisters and brothers who are listening. Because that when you are strong in your core and you don't give yourself away by being weak, or giving yourself away by being too much, by just cultivating that sense of healthy non-toxic relationships, or any codependency, like all those relationships and the way that you look at yourself and hold yourself in the world, all of that is boundaries, sister. All of it is you setting yourself up for a place to be in a protective auric field, and to know that you're strong in it, and having those. Sometimes we don't have clear boundaries. It took me a long time, and I'm still processing through so many things that, I often ask myself, do I have enough boundaries with my friends, with my employees, with my, people in my life, my partner, everyone. And I think that we find the truth in our own boundaries when we write them down, be very clear on what your boundaries are, write them down, and don't be afraid to really embody them. That's really what this whole poem was. Don't be afraid. Don't be a victim. Don't be the hero. Be the hero of your boundaries. Be the hero of your life. Be the magical goddess that is stepping into her own and her power and her sovereignty. Because when we step into that frequency that feels so good, that we're standing in our highest of highest, and we're tapping into that infinite source of our own creation, that is when we are in our fullest, highest, most grandest versions of ourselves. And that's what we're here to do right here, right now. We're stepping into 2020. That is what we're talking about. Okay, like that's why we're here. That's why I step up and do this work, because we get to stand in that highest of highs and hold our truth. And I see you, I feel you, I know you, I love you, and we've got this together. You know, we're all doing the work. I'm doing the work, you're doing the work. Honor yourself for doing the work, and allow yourself to recognize that healthy habits are what are going to support you. But when you have habits that drain your energy and, you know, aren't healthy, then that's what's going to provide a lot of like suffering that you don't need. You don't need it. Take it out of your life. Cut that shit out, girl. Get rid of it. Bye. Okay. So, what a perfect card for the day. I feel like this whole message is going to be very much perfectly aligned with everything that we're experiencing right now. So with that too, I actually have a really beautiful review that I'd like to read before we get in. For those of you guys that have written a review, thank you so much. I've asked everybody, because it's my birthday, I've asked everyone who has not yet written a review or rating on I Am Goddess Collective podcast, Apple Podcasts, wherever, to do so as a birthday gift for me, as I'm really aiming to hit 200 reviews by my birthday, which is in about a week. So thank you so much for everyone who has written a review. This is by J.D. Bill. Nixie radiates. This podcast is a blast. I've followed Nixie's work for a long time, and this girl is a rock star. Relevant topics, relatable, and filled with high energy. Love, love, love. Thank you so much. I really loved that. And heck yes, I feel like a rock star sometimes. And so should you, because we're all rock stars. Makes me think of that song. We all just want to be big rock stars living in, driving in fast cars. Yeah, not really though. Like more like I want to be living in a sustainable tribe, being with my people and holding up the vibe. I don't know. Someday, you guys, I'm going to start freelancing and like dropping some serious beats, because I've been really working through my voice, and sometimes when I just let it go, that shit just flows. All right, I'm going to get into this super awesome podcast episode conversation with Jameelah Anderson. Enjoy, sisters. Sit back, relax, and vibe it out with us. I love you. Hello, sacred sisters. Welcome back to another episode of I Am Goddess Collective podcast. I am sitting with a divine goddess. We've got Jameelah Anderson on the show today. Hello, Jameelah. How are you?
Hello. I am wonderful. How are you?
I am always excited to just have a conversation with some soul sisters around the world and get lit up by, you know, all the things that we chat about here. So I'm doing amazing. Yeah, so Jameelah is here with us today, and she is actually a self-love specialist and growth goddess. So she's actually got a website and a coaching program called Free the Feminine, and she's here to just give us a little bit about what she does as a growth goddess, her journey and transformation, and her evolution of tapping into this divine feminine energy. So the first few questions that I love to start this show with every guest that comes on, Jameelah, what crystals are you currently working with and why?
Okay, so that's a beautifully inventive question. I like.
Thank you.
The crystals that I work with all the time, that I really, really, really enjoy are anything rose. Rose quartz is my favorite. You know, in my work, I talk a lot about my journey to femininity, my journey to the divine feminine, which is essentially my journey to self-love. And rose quartz has been very instrumental in just helping me to stay in that vibration of, you know, kindness and compassion and sweetness and all those good divine feminine things. So rose quartz, always, for life.
Well, you know, what's really synchronistic about that answer is I have this herbal healing deck, and it's one of my favorite decks that I work with to connect with herbs. And I pulled the rose card this morning. So look at that.
Okay,
And
we're getting ready for
I was. You know how the universe works. It like prepares you for either your day, or anytime I do a ritual or podcast or anything, it's like the energy or frequency of the conversation I'm holding or the ritual or anything like already sets the tone. It's so beyond. I can't even explain it, you know?
Yes. And can I make a little notation? When you introduced me, you said the coaching program is Free the Feminine. Just to make sure no one is confused, my company is named Free the Feminine. My coaching program is the Self-Love Journey.
Mm.
That is that's my baby. It's like a toddler now, a little bit, but Free the Feminine is the name of the company, and I've worked under Free the Feminine for about 7 years now. But it's an honor to do all of this work again, just with divine feminine energy. It's really an honor.
Well, thank you for that correction. Definitely important. And you yourself is really ultimately the best way to introduce yourself. So, so Free the Feminine. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is and your journey and how you got there?
Sure. So, Free the Feminine is more or less an online international hub for women all over the world who are ready for more. Free the Feminine was really created to provide the tools, the steps, the resources, and the support that a woman needs when she is stepping into another level of self. Most of the time, our slogan is really for the woman who wants more. And most of the time, when we look at our patterns in life, what we realize is that it's easy to kind of get stuck doing the same thing over and over again. And, that there's more, that there's other options out there, that you could do something different, but it's not always clear how to go about producing the difference. So Free the Feminine was really created to kind of give that quick start, kind of give that jump start, kind of give that map to the woman who is ready for more. She wants more, and she's like, "What? Really? Just give me the map. What's the next step?" So, that's Free the Feminine in a nutshell. And the name really comes out of my commitment to all things liberation. In my journey, I've learned so much about the concept of domestication and how it's affected so many women across the globe in this really, really, really freakish way. And so my role, the way I see myself in position as a leader, as a maverick, as an activator, essentially, for many women who've been walking around sleeping, just kind of functioning in the same routines and cycles and not really knowing how to break out of them. So Free the Feminine is exactly what it says. It's an opportunity for us as women to free all things divine feminine within us so that we can finally awaken to who we are.
Well, one thing I know for sure is usually someone with that big of a mission came from, someone who has had the experience and something that has cracked them open to co-create this magic. So how did you really get yourself to become the free feminine, and work on that within yourself and create this for other women?
Yeah. So, with my own walk to the feminine, I will tell you this. I will tell you that somewhere on the land of internet, in the land of Facebook, there is a Facebook video of me from about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I was leading a vision board workshop. I, lead an annual vision board workshop, and where I teach, the attendees just how to prepare for the year ahead, how to get ready for what's about to come, whatever it is that you're creating. Let's actually get that documented and et cetera. So in the vision board event, the vision board workshop that I was doing, I had brought in some materials and I was talking to the attendees about my vision for the upcoming year. And I told them that because I had spent so much time in the masculine side of things and the masculine energy and the really heavy doing and heavy lifting, because I had spent that much time on that side, I wanted to pivot and I wanted to spend more time in the feminine. And this is before I really understood anything about freeing my feminine or really understood my role as self-love specialist and growth goddess. And I brought in this poster with, all of my images, my vision. So my vision board, I brought that in. And when I flipped it over to the attendees, the audience, looking back now, I realized that every single image on that board reflected a woman in a feminine position that catered to men.
Wow.
So what we've learned is femininity is actually what men have taught us is femininity.
Right.
It's not necessarily what femininity is. When we use the word feminine, there's pictures that come to mind. And the pictures specifically that I had on my vision board were of women in sultry, seductive, tight dresses, short things, and heels, and all of this stuff. And looking back now, I'm like, whoa, that says so much about the beginning of that journey and understanding the true divine feminine, because the divine feminine is not it's not demonstrated by those particular images. It's demonstrated by energy. And my own struggle was that I had my kid very early, 17 years old, struggled as a single mother for a very long time, adapted this mentality that I needed to do everything myself. I needed to take care of myself, take care of my child. I had to worked myself to the bone. I was a chronic overachiever, chronic at being very self-critical, chronic at making an A plus at everything. Like everything was just an overdrive. And that space was an energy suck. It sucked me dry to the point that I wasn't able to extend myself in such a way to even my children that reflected a level of compassion, that reflected a level of forgiveness and understanding. I wasn't able to express that. And, with my own journey, I remember my daughter, after we were able to kind of talk openly about that struggle that I had personally, and we were able to talk about how it affected her. One of the things that she said that really kind of gave credence to where I used to be and where I am now, she said, "Mommy, I didn't think that you liked me. I didn't think that you actually liked me." So there was just so much that I was holding on to within that space. And in the process of my journey, really the journey was to femininity, true divine femininity.
Wow, that is so beautiful. And, one of the things that I just want to pull out there that you said is divine feminine as energy. And that is really so true because, when you embody this frequency, this energy of the feminine, it isn't a program, it isn't like what we're made it to look like. It can be embodied in however we look like, right? And, it sounds like you had a lot of deprogramming essentially to really navigate through in stepping into your path and into your role as a divine feminine leader. So, I mean, when you found all that, like, what was your biggest breakthrough through all that?
I would probably say the biggest breakthrough of it was really understanding who the fuck I am, right? That's really the biggest breakthrough, because before I understood that I am Jameelah, whole Offset, whole Anderson, whole goddess, whole queen, before I understood that I am here with a mission and with a role and with things to do, before I understood any of that, it was almost like a seesaw. It was like some days I'd be like, I can, rule the world. And then the other days I'd be like, I don't even deserve to be here. What am I doing here? Who sent me? And why am I here?
Yeah.
So life seemed to be a whole seesaw for years, for a really, 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 really long time. I remember getting my sidereal chart read earlier this year, and it tells you like what years of your life the planets were in and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And for 10 years of my life, it reflected a whole Mercury. Mercury. So I was like, I was in retrograde for like these whole 10 years. Like,
wow.
So there was just a lot of trepidation, a lot of doubt, a lot of back and forth for me, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't confidently step and say, this is who I am, because in a few moments it could change. That seesaw could go back the other way and I might lose my footing. So that whole dynamic was the biggest breakthrough, because once I crossed over and was able to create a foundation, create a foundation for self-love in my life. Once I was able to cross over and do that, things started to look very, very different. My life, my thoughts, everything, the people I attracted, everything started to look very, very different. And as I moved further into that space of self-love, that's when I had my own goddess energy activation, my own, interaction with goddess energy. And so that whole breakthrough of really just identifying who I am and finally getting a chance to look in the mirror. Once you look in the mirror and see yourself, you can't unsee it, Nixie. Like you can't unsee what you just saw. So
yeah, you're definitely speaking that truth, girl.
That was the biggest thing. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
So self-love was really your gateway to opening up and finding that. What were some of your self-care rituals that you began to do, and like what did that look like for you?
So I actually have a guide, a free guide, where I talk about honoring yourself through spiritual practice. And every single thing that I suggest in that guide is the same thing that I did for myself. I am a very early riser, so when I get up in the morning, my time is very sacred. That energy, that space, everything that I'm holding in that moment has been very sacred. And so I employed a spiritual practice of really making sure that I kind of reminded myself. Once I knew who I was and know who I am, now I have to make sure that I am staying in that energy, that I'm just reminding myself, so I don't lose sight and I don't kind of get boggled down with all the other distractions that don't matter. So really being in that space where I'm reiterating my objective at this time in my life, that was a big part of my spiritual practice in the whole transition. Because it's, again, for me, it's really easy to get off site. It's really easy to get off track, especially if you realize I'm destined to be the president of Tanzania, then that means that there's a lot of things you're going to have to do.
Right.
There's a lot.
Yep.
So staying on track and staying on path and staying on target, and that is the biggest chronicle of loving you and recognizing who you are. Because think about it. If you know that you have this big thing that you're supposed to do, and if you have a lot of people that you need to help and a lot of people who are coming to you, then that means that you have to step your game up. You have to be in a place where you're prepared to receive the sick. You're prepared to receive the ill. You're prepared to receive the lame. So for me, being prepared meant reminding myself of the duty, reminding myself of the destination every single morning, and just sitting with that, just sitting and taking time for myself first thing, and not, making time for things that didn't matter, but making time for Jameelah, the goddess, first, and then allowing other things to kind of trickle in. So that's probably the biggest self-care routine.
Well, and one thing that you said too that I think is really important for all women listening is really making time for you first. We're so conditioned to give and be people pleasers and take care of everyone else, whether that be your kids, your husband, your partner, your, team, your business, whatever it is. And the fact that you just said, this is my boundary, this is my non-negotiable, putting that time for you first is, just medicine. It's so important. And I personally know when I am not in my flow with that, I took a really, really interesting recently a break around all that because I just felt so tired, really drained, and just kind of like energetically lethargic and without it, and for me, like the mornings are my sacred time. So when I noticed that wasn't my MO anymore, there was just, it was like, whoa, something is really not working, and I think it's really important to see that, notice it, recognize it, and then, do something about it, but not be in this like shame or guilt around not doing something that, you're supposed to do. And, it's important to check back in and get back on track. But for those that kind of like myself, fell off a little bit or aren't consistent with it, what guidance do you have for us out there?
Well, I would definitely say that being in a space of knowing helps dramatically, right? So, okay, this is the thing. I was just thinking earlier today, like, oh gosh, Jameelah, there's so many amazing things that are unfolding and happening right now in your life. And you get to decide, like, ultimately, I get to decide what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And, just get to say, this is what I'm welcoming in my life at this particular point, right? But the thing about it is that if I decide that I want to have a Porsche, then I need to be prepared to maintain a Porsche. I just need to be prepared, getting ready for all the things that I say I want. If this is what I said I wanted, then there's no reason why I should be surprised or unprepared. I want a baby, but you don't have a baby room. Where's the baby going to sleep? Like, you got to get ready for these things that you're asking for and requiring. So in the process of me thinking about that, it just brings me to thinking about all of the healers. Even right now, if you're listening to the podcast and you're a healer, you're a teacher, you're a coach, you are a medium, you are so many things, you're a witch, you're a goddess. All these things that you are mean that there are people who need your help. There's a whole set of people, a whole tribe, a whole group, a whole squad of people who need what it is that you have. And how can you fully honor the gift of who and what you are if you are allowing yourself to kind of get pulled in so many different directions to where you're drained? It doesn't honor the gift that you are. It's all about that knowing. Once you know, this is my gift. I can, work with people who have cancer. I can work with people who have diabetes. I can work with people who have lost their parents, who have lost their children, like whatever it is. Once you know what it is, then there's already an understanding that there's more for me to do in order to deliver. And so if it's a struggle, if that's a struggle, then that means that there could be some more knowing, there could be some more digging in the knowledge of self that needs to be done. Some more, prodding and probing to see what's underneath the surface so that you can fully understand the gravity, the greatness, the beauty that you are. And it'll make it a lot easier, I promise you. Once you know, like I said, you can't unknow.
Yeah.
So once you stare at yourself in the eyes face to face for the first time and see how amazing, it's really hard to go back, to whatever you were doing before. It's just really,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible.
Yeah, you can't like put on more masks and be like, okay,
No.
here I go, world, like back to my old
Right.
self. No. Once you get a taste of that medicine, like it's the truth of who you are, the essence of who you are. Yeah, you can't go back. I often think too, like coming, we were talking a little bit before, you asked me like how I got started, and I was in the fashion world, and that path like still calls to me oftentimes because I'm such a creative. But the thing is, it's not who I am anymore. And sometimes I don't even remember certain things because it's like that was another lifetime for me, So I totally hear you and I feel you on that on another level. It is so true. And, just pulling out another really like bomb that you just dropped was being prepared for what you're asking for. Yes, exactly. That is it right there. And, thank you for just presencing that and reminding us all of that, because what really shifted for me to get back into my practice was finishing my meditation room and my altar room. And as soon as that was there, it was like, boom, game over. And now I'm back in my practice. It's like, hello, make space for it. And you're right. Be prepared for it. I can't be teaching meditation and doing all those things if I'm not prepared for it or wanting to do that. So yeah, sisters, feeling that message? Yeah, it's like so obvious and right in front of us often too, that it's like a form of self-sabotage that we don't take action on that.
Hello. And I'm glad that you actually termed it as self-sabotage, because I didn't even understand, like, and only because all the launch of the compassion course is coming up. So I'm getting prepared for all of that. And I have webinars coming up. All of this stuff is just running in right now. So you guys are, you goddesses and my beautiful sisters, not you guys. Okay. See that old stuff, bringing in the new, but you goddesses are really getting a whole lot of just real time wisdom and knowledge and content, because just today I was writing down a few things about how to know when your self-love tank is just running dry, like how to know when it's low. And one of the things that you can tell, even for friends, so even observing someone else, when that woman that is so powerful, and so full of magic, when you see your friend and she's kind of tucking herself in, or it's hard to get in contact with her, it's hard to really link up and make time with her. When she has the opportunity to connect with you, it's limited, and all of those things that falls into the sense of sabotage and kind of suppression, because women are the only entity. We are the entities. We are the catalyst for healing. We sisters heal sisters. Okay.
Yes.
That's the catalyst. The energy that we carry is enough for the divine masculine, the masculine, and the feminine. It's enough for all. As women, we are natural givers. We are naturally nurturing at our core. We are naturally charismatic. That's just part of our natural tendency. And I remember even for one of the goddesses that I worked with years ago, she would always, she had this big mission, and she was a grief coach, and she really wanted to work with people who had lost parents, because she had lost her parents. And she would always preface, any workshop she was about to give or any kind of speaking engagement that she was going to do by saying, I'm not like you, Jameelah. I'm shy. So, people don't respond to me the way that they respond to you. And I identified that as self-sabotage. I said, hey, you're using this language and this language is already setting you up to fail. And I said, but beyond that, I don't understand how being shy keeps you from being a great speaker. There are great speakers who can still speak, who may be shy, but they still may be able to articulate, give great information, give great pointers, walk people through things step by step. These are the criterion that's required to be a great speaker. So self-sabotage is just one of those little sneaky things that you have to just kind of be in that place of awareness so that you're not stepping on your own foot, essentially. And just kind of being in that place where you're saying, okay, if I am this great gift, if I am this amazing entity and this amazing gift to the world, then what are the things that I am enacting that may be keeping me from doing what it is that I'm here to do?
Yeah, that right there. I can relate to that. And oh my gosh, like women are catalysts for healing and sisterhood. I just spent my whole weekend in Colorado visiting literally my best friend, and she just her medicine. And this is why, I get so passionate about being able to connect with women and doing the podcast, is just how important it is to be held and to be seen by those really intimate relationships. Because I think as women, we all have different dynamics of relationships. We have friends that we go out and have a drink with, or, cacao with, or we have rituals with. And then we have, the types that maybe we go shopping, whatever. We have so many different types of categories of friends, but then there's the friendships that are just like so soulful and so medicinal. Is the more that I spend time with these friends that I am surrounded by, the more that I know I'm healing, the more that I find out more about myself. I see myself in them. They remind me it's okay to be fully expressed, fully immersed, fully wild. And, that right there is the catalyst. It is why we are so powerful together. Well, now seems like the perfect opportunity to share with you goddesses our newest sponsor, the Moon Deck. The Moon Deck is a beautiful oracle set that connects you to your intuition and brings self-care rituals into your daily life. Created to foster community and healing, this entire set of 44 cards plus a beautiful guidebook filled with rituals is inspired by the cycles of the moon and the empowerment of women. It shares insights on growth, purpose, practice, and emotional well-being. The Moon Deck can be worked with as an oracle guide, as a daily tool for reflection and meditation, or simply in a tarot-inspired spread. As a Goddess listener, you receive 10% off the entire site. So head on over to themoondeck.com/goddess and enter code goddessmoon to receive your discount. Happy rituals and oracle card pulling, sisters. I love you. So, question on the self-care. What are some things, like just maybe 3 things that you started doing in that self-care, like in your mornings? Did you journal? Do you take baths? Like what is your self-care rituals really look like?
So I am not like a really big self-care oriented person. Like outside of me reminding myself what it is that needs to get done in this particular chapter, utilize a whole lot of self-care, is that I do utilize regularly self-love practices. And my self-love practices require for me to be in a place where I'm consistently asking myself, does this make me feel loved, honored, worshipped, adored, appreciated, valued, respected, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Just really being in that space where I am consistently intentional about being in a loving energy. And that is my my practice. That's my route. That's my way of being. That's my way of living. What I realized is that it was easy for me to be in a space of toleration and just tolerating things and allowing things that I didn't want for real. Like I don't want it, but okay, whatever. That actually does more harm than it does good. It does really, 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 really horrible damage. And part of me being true to myself, part of being true to yourself, period, not even just for me, but for you, is saying, does this feel loving to me right now? Does this make me feel loved? Does this make me feel like a goddess? Does this make me feel like who I am? Because if you're in this energy where you're consistently kind of wavering into energy that doesn't make you feel alive, it doesn't make you feel loved, it doesn't make you feel honored, then it's drawing energy away from you. It's nicking you. It's pulling from you. So yeah, my self-love practice is really to consistently be in the energy of, this feels loving. This feels like adoration. This feels like respect. This feels like value. This feels like appreciation, to make sure that I am just in alignment. That's my biggest desire, to be in alignment, to be in a space where ascension is always at my feet. But yes, that would be my self-love practice.
Well, I love that you really bring it into more of a lifestyle than just like a, meditation, or it's just like a thing that you do and then turn it off. Yeah, I think that's really important to remember.
It is easy to turn it off.
Yeah.
Like, you can do some things, and this is the thing, like, even with journaling, at one point, at one chapter in my story, I was journaling every day. And at some point, I realized that me journaling every day was, again, doing more harm than good. It wasn't giving me the advances that it had previously given me in the previous chapter. So I had to scrap journaling every day. I had to scrap daily journaling because it was no longer honoring me. It was no longer providing for me what it had once provided. And so being in that lifestyle, as you term it, of self-love, and making sure that I'm in alignment. The divine feminine is always bubbling and working, and I'm in a place where nurture and compassion and kindness for myself is just big. It makes it easy for me to be able to do that and offer that to other people as well. So it's a way to stay true to myself, and a way to stay true to the work that I do and the people that I work with.
What are some things that you often see on a pattern or consistently that women often struggle with in adapting that self-care, self-love mindset?
The biggest thing that I see as a pattern is that seesaw, right?
Yeah.
that I'm great, everything is great, everything is cool, and then like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, I can't, and who am I to do it? That seesaw, it needs to be uprooted and burned at the stake. Like, it should just be abolished.
I love it.
A lot of the things that we essentially want as women, they're natural. They come from a place that is beyond the earth. They're divine. So when you naturally want something, it's intuition saying, hey, this is what you should have. And anytime you teeter totter and say, I don't know, should I have it? Maybe I shouldn't. Oh my God, what's going on? Like, what you do is you make it harder for you to make that decision the next time the opportunity comes around. So, if $5 comes your way and you're like, oh my God, I don't know, know, should I have it? Should I not have it? Oh my God, oh my God. Then what it does is it pushes these things away and it says, well, I don't know. I don't think you should have it. Maybe you shouldn't. Like, what? I don't know what's going on. And it just sends this whole confusing energy out. And it makes it, you get into that pattern, you get into that cycle. It becomes a routine. Things come your way, you start questioning, should I not? Should I not? So the biggest pattern is that seesaw, that kind of mind game that is taking place for so many about just who and what and why and how, all of those things. That's the biggest one that I see over and over again.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that one. So, when it's just like hard to make decisions, wanting to go one way, then the next, and not often really clear on, the path. And I think clarity is really the path to, let's say, enlightenment, or just knowing yourself or know thyself, because, when we don't know the answer, it's important sometimes to not know the answer actually, but with the essence of not going in that straight direction and having a clear understanding of why we're making that decision, or just trusting in the decision. I can definitely relate to that on many different levels. And I'm sure all you lovely sisters listening can relate as well. But what are some exercises that you do to get back into your center, or just stay focused in that decision so you don't teeter totter and go back and forth?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is very valuable when you think about the teeter totter is asking yourself, essentially, would the me who loves me more than anything in the world, what would they move forward with this decision? Like, really putting on a whole new, maybe thinking cap, right?
Yeah.
And saying, if I really, 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 really love the shit out of myself right now, what decision would I make? What would that mean? Right? Because sometimes the teeter totter could just really reflect, you pointed out, it could really reflect confusion. You pointed out clarity. So the teeter totter, yes, absolutely, it can reflect confusion. I just don't know what choice to make. I don't know what's in, the path for me right now. So I'm not sure if I should go left, or I'm not sure if I should go straight, or whatever the options may be. But coming back into that space of self-love, coming back into recognizing that if I truly see myself as numero uno, if I truly see myself as the queen, as the goddess, as this amazing divine extension of love and light, this gift, if I see myself that way, then essentially the question is, what decision am I going to make? What is it that I'm going to do in that role? So putting on the crown, right?
Yeah.
That is really the way that I live. I live by the crown. I live by an understanding that this is who I am, and because it's who I am, I have to make sure that I'm remaining true to that. And Nixie, I want to just point out the reason why, because I know someone right now is like, why does she keep saying this is who I am? I want to point this out because it's so important to kind of give context. At one point in my life, I found myself at such a low stage energetically that, I remember walking into like this party. I was waiting for a friend. My friend and I were supposed to go to this party, some kind of event. And I was waiting in the car for her to show up. She was taking a really long time. I had to go to the bathroom. And I had on this really cute outfit, these heels. I just looked like, of course, dressed to the nine. And I'm getting out the car and I'm walking across the parking lot, and I see this group of people in front of the building, and they're hanging out and they're talking and they're laughing and they're having a good time. But the vibration just felt off, right? It just felt like, I don't know, right? And at that time in my life, I had a lot of anxiety and just a lot of things going on with me internally. So as I walked up to the building, I remember this hush. Like the talking died down a little bit and the laughing died down a little bit. And it felt like the moment in the movie where everything kind of just stopped, and everyone turns to look. And in the moment that they were turning to look was the same moment that my heel was getting caught in some piece of the concrete.
Oh my God.
And so I tripped, right?
No way.
Thank God it was a stumble and not a fall. But either way, in the trip, what I did just automatically, subconsciously, I turned around and I literally apologized to the concrete.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Right. I said, I'm sorry, right? I was like, oh, sorry. There was no one there. There was nothing for me to apologize to but the concrete. And, that's something that can easily get brushed over, look to the side, like no big deal. You just walk on and move on with life. But seeing myself now with this crown, sitting on the throne, and recognizing what was taking place at that time, when I was apologizing to the concrete, it just highlights the dynamic of how far this self-love thing has taken me. Because if you see yourself in a place of high value, in a place of high worth, then how is it that you are injured or, you stumble or something happens to you and you feel like you should issue an apology? You are so committed to issuing an apology that you turn around and issue an apology to nothing.
That's deep.
How? If you value yourself, if you see yourself, if you recognize the divinity, then you're not committed to constantly being apologetic. You're not committed to that I'm sorry. You're not committed to the concept of you needing to compensate for anything. There's no more of that. So in this space now, it's almost, I don't know if anyone watches Game of Thrones, but it's almost
I didn't get really into it. I kind of came up late, so I never really got full into it. I'm sure there's so many people, which my boyfriend to this day is like, how are you not watching Game of Thrones? Like, this is your show. Like, what are you doing? And I want to start it, but I'm like, I will then need to cancel everything in my life. And because I have no self-control around that stuff, I'm like all about the mystical and the magic and the costumes. So,
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. You will not have a life.
Nope. When I go live on an island and I'm not doing anything, that's what I'll do. One day, Bill.
So when in the show, essentially there's this character, and I won't reveal the details just in case you decide you want to go to the island one day. And you're like, don't spoil it. But there's this character that spends the entire show thinking that they are, essentially a wayward child, that they are the child of nobody, that they don't have a last name to speak of, that they're not relevant. And we watch them literally go through trying and giving so much of themselves to everything. And that chronicle moment for that character is when they find out, wait a minute, I am actually the last king of a generation of kings. Wow. Like, I am the only one that exists. Like, everything that I have ever worked for in my life, I didn't even have to work for it. It was already mine. Wow. All of this was already mine. And, seeing that, literally seeing that in that show displayed just such realism for me personally. And I'm sure for many who are still trying to figure out and just undergoing this discovery portion of the self-love journey. But essentially, what's very interesting and very ironic is even after that discovery and after seeing self and knowing, what that character does is demonstrate that so many people who go through and kind of say, okay, wow, this is who I am, still struggle with, again, embodying everything, embodying all the things that you are. Now you know that you are the last of the last goddesses. You are the last of the last queens. You are the last of the last witches. Now what? Now are you really going to move forward and pick up the scepter, pick up the wand, pick up whatever tool you need to pick up in order to execute your mission? Or are you going to go back to playing that game? Are you going to walk to the next step, or are you going to turn around and retreat and go back down the stairs? Right? I mean, Marianne Williamson's quote couldn't be any more relevant. It's not the darkness, it's the light that scares us. It's all the things that we are. You know, the deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, but it's that we are amazing. We're beyond the scope of imagination and belief. That's what we fear. Like, now that you know this, oh my God, now I have to uphold it. Now I have so much work to do. It's so much responsibility. That is the portion. That's the self-sabotage. That's where all the doubts and the stuff kicks in. And that is what I essentially live to teach on reducing, and not just reducing, but teaching the strategies to work your way out of it. When you interact with those thoughts, when you interact with these feelings, now what? You know, and even preliminary, before those thoughts come up, before you go into another space where it's like, oh goodness, here comes the responsibility, and I don't know if I'm really ready for that. What is the work that you're doing all along? What's the work that you're doing along the way?
Yeah.
Are you hearing that?
We got some doggies on the podcast.
I do.
It's okay. My cat Dumbledore. He did try to climb up on the desk today, but he's finally found himself nestled up on the couch next to me. So, you know, sometimes the animals want to speak too. They want to have a voice.
Dumbledore is so cute.
Yeah, he's my prince, king, all the things. He's a very loyal partner of mine. Aww. So he definitely comes and steals the show like he is right now.
So sweet.
Yeah, wow. I mean, all of what you just said, I'm just like inviting everybody to open up and receive, because it is so powerful and so true. And one of the things, the breakthrough this past weekend, it's like everything that we're talking about, I feel like was my like summary of what I've been going through these last few weeks and over the weekend. And one of my girlfriends and I were kind of deep diving on some stuff that seems like she's being held back, you know, in certain areas. And I left all these notes around her house saying, get out of your own way. And everywhere, like as much as she could possibly see it, because, you know, it's like we are the ones that are in our own way all the time. And we need those reminders to just say, you know, this isn't about us anymore. It's bigger than us. Our mission is not about us. It is like we are this entity, this source that is saying, I'm ready. And I'm receiving the message. I'm receiving this creative force. And when people need to be served, kind of taking us back to the, you know, initial start of this conversation, when those were healers, teachers, light workers, when we're here to serve, it is not about us really. You know, it's about the divine that's moving through us, and that there's those that need to be served by us. Like you said, someone has what you need or what you have. So bringing it all back to that.
And I kind of want to say that, you know, just to be very clear, I do not believe that being in this space of recognition is about the output. Okay. I believe that very often we get caught as the healers, the coaches, the doers, we get caught, the servers, we get caught in serving. Like, if anything, we overserve, right?
Yep.
We're always thinking about someone else. And my message, my mission has to do with teaching skills, teaching the lessons, teaching the practices and the techniques for the woman who knows that there is more for her life. Period. It's less about serving per se and more about being. It's about being, because I don't have to do anything in the realm of service if I am just living and being Jameelah, the self-love specialist, the goddess queen, the growth goddess. If I'm just being, I'm automatically doing my job. I'm automatically serving. When I showed up in the room and I sat down, I was serving because I was there. That was the only requirement, my presence. Very often my voice, very often my natural responses. Like, when you are in a space where you are honoring and giving credence and taking care of self and making sure that you have self-love as a priority, that you're really just nurturing and doing what you're supposed to do to maintain and to help you flourish, it makes it easy for everything around you to flourish naturally. Yeah. Naturally. You don't even have to think about what it is that you need to get done to help this person. And as a matter of fact, I would say that when you're in a space where it feels like you need to push to help, like, oh, I really need to help, really check yourself and say, is this at this moment exactly what I need to do to demonstrate loving actions towards myself? Because what I've seen over the years are a number of women who have been giving to the point of exhaustion, and then the only thing that they have for self is the fumes that are left over. I'm going to run off of these fumes.
Yeah.
I'm going to exist off of these fumes. I'm going to give everything that I have so that I can be seen as nice, so that I can be a good person, so that I can, operate from this space. But essentially, how is that being a good person to you? How is that being nice to you? What kind of space is that for you to operate in? So a big part of understanding the work is just understanding the dynamic of self and the dynamic of the more you are pouring into self, the more pours out. Because like I said, naturally, as women, we are the catalyst. We are the catalyst for everything. We are the creators. We are the divine.
Oh, sister. So many wisdom bombs dropped on the show today. I feel like we could definitely keep going for a while here. But we definitely, we get to wrap up the show. And I just have to say, thank you so much for sharing all this medicine and reminding me of a lot of things. I think it's always a really powerful podcast when I'm like reminded myself of some things and I learn other things as well. And that's, again, going back to why women are so powerful together. So thank you so much, Jameelah.
You're welcome so much, Nixie.
Yeah. Well, so wrapping up the show, a few more questions. Where can everybody find you and your work and your awesomeness?
Sure. So if you are interested in learning more and just exploring anything, whether it be blogs or whether it be just lessons, downloads, guides, whatever, you can come on over to freethefeminine.com. We have a plethora of information there, including the links for social media. The group that I currently have has about maybe 1,300 women, but it is a great group if you're looking for a supportive group, if you're looking for a community of goddesses. a community of women who are all doing the work, who are all on this mission. And you can find out more about that by going to freethefeminine.com.
I love that name too, Free the Feminine. It's so fitting. I love it. All right. So I love wrapping up this question with all my guests that come on. And last question of the day. What do you do to invoke your inner goddess?
What do I do to invoke my inner goddess? So it's about to get real and real raunchy, right?
Oh boy.
So what I do to invoke my inner goddess is I turn my attention and my energy onto pleasure. I put the spotlight on pleasure. I put the spotlight on all things salacious, all things sensual, all things opulent, all things luxury. Part of my transcendence was going from literal, rags to riches in a very big way. And being in a space, being in goddess energy indicates all of those things concerning pleasure and just seduction and sensuality. And I just believe in being a well-fucked goddess. I don't feel like, you can really be your full space on your full throne if you're pent up and if you're suppressing everything. I don't believe in that. So a big part of what I have opened a lot of my energy to, just, as part of the self-love journey, is pleasure.
Wow, I love that answer. Definitely so good. Pleasure. Turn it on, ladies. That's that message. Well, yeah. we love to talk about turning anything on this podcast. So anything goes with that for sure. We, and the vision I have, because I always have visions sometimes that like pop up. I'm very clairvoyant in that way. And the vision I had for all of us while you were speaking was really embodying our throne and embodying our queendom. And you really come on with that frequency. And so it's really powerful to feel that, because I can hear you, and just the way that you answered, some of the things with saying, I put on my crown. I really just bringing it all together, I hope that this podcast brings you to this space as well as it has with me, to just sit in that throne and to really see what it looks like when you step into that frequency. And that's what, going back to what you said, turning it all on, living a fully abundant life is. And that's really what it is here at I Am Goddess Collective. So thank you so much, Jameelah. You're rad, and I can't wait for everybody to explore more about you. All right, sisters, I love you. I see you. I hear you. Bye for now. Thanks, Jameelah, for coming on the show.